So I hope you can hear me well over the sounds of the city, but I thought that this backdrop might be worth taking the risk on the audio. So recently I put out a video saying that I heard it from a source that there was some exciting new firmware updates coming to Sony cameras. And in that video, I said this. Like 95% sure it's the Sony A7S III update. And it turns out I was right. Well, kind of. So apparently this firmware update is for the FX3, which for all intents and purposes is the A7S III in a different body.
What I told you was true, from a certain point of view.
Or at least that was the case until just now. So I'm kind of disappointed because I have the Sony A7S III and that is what I thought this firmware update was going to be coming towards. Now I will not go into details about all the different aspects of this new firmware update for the FX3. I will say that some of you got some things right, like them adding LUT profile supports. I do wish they would have went a little bit further and added like waveforms to this, cinema camera like it is. Oh, there's a big hornet. That's a big old hornet. Please do not sting me, hornet. That will ruin this video or help make it. Oh, this sucks. Oh, I'm in its flowers. Oh, it's between me and escaping. Okay, now that I'm possibly out of harm's way and probably added some more echo to this video, let me go into why I really wish and think that they should bring this firmware update to the A7S III, and then give you the reason why they probably won't. Reason number one that I think they should bring this firmware to the A7S III is because, well, it's obviously possible to add this into the A7S III. They are literally the exact same camera on the inside, minus a fan and, well, the external differences, but they're the same camera on the inside. So they can absolutely add this firmware update if they want, and if the customers want, and I believe that they absolutely will. The second reason that I think that they should add this firmware update is, well, precedence. Precedence or precedence? These two cameras have been lock and step almost from the very beginning. As soon as the FX3 was announced with S-Cinetone, it was a few weeks after that we found out that it was coming to the A7S III. And ever since then, the two cameras have been pretty much exactly the same for the last 2 years or so, and a lot of people actually have bought the A7S III along with the FX3, and they use those cameras in unison, and I think that it makes sense for these two cameras to be in parity with each other, especially after so long of being in parity with each other. To myself personally, who bought my A7S III even after the FX3 was announced, I bought it with the thought process in mind that they were basically the same camera with different ergonomics. And after I saw that Sony was bringing the same firmware updates, or at the time the same firmware updates, the A7S III, and I saw that they were adding basically the same things to the A7S III that were in the FX3, and that made me comfortable with my buying decision. I would be even more pissed, and rightfully pissed, if I bought the Sony A7S III before the announcement of the FX3, which leads me to my third point, and that is the marketing of the A7S III when it first came out. So Sony touted that the A7S III was going to be their video-centric camera. This was the camera that was made for videographers first, and of course it had a hybrid spin to it, so no doubt you could still take great photos with it, but this was aimed towards videographers. If I'm not mistaken, even in the marketing, they kind of have a tinge saying that this can be used alongside a lot of your cinema cameras, and they showed how it had the dynamic range of most cinema cameras and touted it as the video-centric camera. But very recently after that, within a 5 to 6 month proximity when they announced the A7S III in September of 2020, they released, or at least announced, the FX3 in February of 2021. So to me, that is a very backhanded thing to do to the A7S III owners, especially if you're not gonna have these cameras work in sync with each other like they've been working for the last 2 years. I also think that Sony knows that, or at least knew that, and that is the reason that they quickly came out with a firmware update to the A7S III that added that S-Cine tone. Now that I've ranted on about why I think the Sony A7S III should get this firmware update, and of course I am extremely biased in saying that, let me go over to the reason why they probably won't. The reason that they probably won't is the name Cine that is in the FX3. A main reason for this update is probably for them to differentiate this camera from the A7S III and to bring it closer towards their cinema line, which is what a lot of people expected it to be from the beginning. This thing was supposed to be a cinema style camera, but really was just a rebranded A7S III. Now I think 2 years later, they are actually going to be adding some differences that put the FX3 closer to the cinema line like the FX6 and the FX9. They still didn't go far enough in my mind towards the cinema line, if I'm being honest, and I'm still very disappointed that they didn't add in the A7S III. And I think that this would be an easier pill to swallow if these features had been there from the beginning. Also, by doing this, they are steering people's hands towards the FX3, which has a higher price tag and even a less expensive feature like the EVF that comes in the A7S III. So I'm guessing, and I pretty much know, there's a lot more profit margin within the FX3 than there is in the A7S III. So that's why Sony more than likely will not bring this to the A7S III, as much as I wish that they would, and as much as I hope that they do. And I think maybe the possibility that they piss enough people off, like myself being kind of pissed off here, that there's a slight possibility that they will go in the course of adding this to the A7S III. It will be extremely easy for them to do so. So maybe if enough of us speak out and say, hey, look, this is the camera that we wanted from the very beginning in the A7S III. This is what the A7S III is for. It was supposed to be the video-centric flagship for you guys. Make this happen. Maybe Sony will add this to the A7S III. Maybe it is already their plan. I don't think it is right now. I'm done with my rant. Drop in the comment section below and let me know. Are you thinking that it is a good idea for them to bring this to the FX3 and not the A7S III? Do you think that they will bring this to the A7S III? Are you disappointed like me that right now that this is only an FX3 update? Let me know all that in the comment section below. Also, if you're down there and you're looking for new gear, maybe an FX3, be sure to hit my affiliate links and they will send you over to Amazon and you will be linked for me for like 24 hours. So that helps out the channel and I really appreciate it. If you've liked this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing. And until next time, peace.